Hey, good evening, everyone. So I'm going to try to do more regular broadcasts. Here's an attempt at something like a daily broadcast. It would be a daily answering of questions, I think. But let me know if the sound is no good. If you can't hear me, I'm trying this little mic here. And maybe it's better sound, I don't know. I can see comments, so feel free to comment. But when listening to the Dhamma, one thing to keep in mind is it's not about chatting, Chatting, the comment section shouldn't be seen as a sort of, hey, let's chat while he's giving the talk. This isn't, just because it's the internet doesn't mean we should act internet-ish. So these videos are probably, for now at least, going to be answering questions. So we've got all these questions on our meditation site. I'm not going to be answering questions in the comments. So please don't post comments there, or questions there. But another thing is that last night I talked about the idea of having a sort of a live question where people could call me, and I asked what could go wrong, and sure enough, in the middle of the night, some people saw the video and said, "Oh, I think I'll call him." And so I had people calling me on Hangouts in the middle of the night, which I didn't quite expect, but probably should have. So I think we'll go back to the drawing board on that one. But tonight's question is about avoidance. The question was about avoiding a friend who had betrayed the person, and their feeling was that they weren't strong enough to deal with the person, to avoid getting upset, And as a result, they wonder whether it's better to avoid this person while they become stronger. They're a new meditator. So I mean, it's a good general question. What about avoidance? And I've talked about this before. It comes in the Sabbasava Sutta. There's a short but useful guideline there. It's called Parivajjana Pahatabhada. The defilements or the taints that you get rid of, the purification or the purity of mind that comes about from avoiding things. Because if you didn't avoid them, unwholesome states would arise. So let's put this in three parts. What the Sabbasava Sutta advises you to avoid. So there's a avoiding on principle, let's call that. And the avoiding on principle, in this case, I would say, relates to the fact that the person is evil. Right? Is of evil intentions. This person betrays other people. They're the sort of person who is not to be trusted. And it's not really a condemnation of the person, but it's an awareness and an understanding. And that might change, but even with an apology, you forgive, but I think forgiving and forgetting should not always be the same, right? We do things based on habits. So if a person has betrayed you, I think you're within your rights, and it's generally a good thing to do to be wary of that person. Don't take their counsel, or take their counsel with a grain of salt. Don't seek them out, and as far as associating with them, be wary and consider that being in their presence has the potential for getting caught up in their unwholesomeness. And so on principle, avoiding people who, to the degree that you are reasonable in understanding that they've got bad intentions. But that says nothing yet about your reactions to them. And so the idea here is that a person's evilness or level of evil potential, let's say, is a source of fairly strong and understandable reaction. So it's, of all things, it's much more likely to give rise to unwholesomeness. Right? It's on a level different from the unwholesomeness that comes from an objective experience. Let's say stubbing your toe on a rock, for example, or feeling cold, feeling hot, hearing a sound, seeing an image or an object, and so on. So this first avoidance, definitely avoid evil people. Doesn't mean you run away from them or you see them and you get all freaked out or anything. It means you have a rational understanding that you sort of incorporate into this rational sense of what's right to do, right? Because a lot of the questions I get and a lot of the questions we have are, what's the right thing to do in a certain situation? And there's no easy answer to that. There are a lot of factors that come into play, and the main point is, don't let your emotions get involved, right? It shouldn't just be, I don't like this, I'm going to leave. Not on this level. There's a level on which we do things just because they're right to do, or we don't do things just because they're wrong to do. That's the first level. So the second level, where we avoid things that we can't handle. And this is already covered under the first one in this case. But it's worth pointing out the difference here, right? There are qualities about a person that lead us to unwholesomeness. And so, in this example, a person who's betrayed you, just being in their presence might freak you out or make you upset and make you remember all the bad things that they did to you. That's not necessarily a reason to avoid, a reason to do anything, right? To say, well, this is not good, I shouldn't be in their presence because I get upset just seeing them, right? Because that's in the realm of experience. The same sort of thing can arise from being around someone who's not doing anything unwholesome, but whose behavior or appearance or so on gives rise to unwholesomeness in you. So it could be because they're eating too loud, right? I make a clicking noise in my jaw when I eat sometimes, and my father has called me out on it. He gets upset about it. Maybe kids playing or something, or a person's voice is shrill. Maybe you don't like the way I talk, right? Or you don't like the fact that I'm a white person teaching Buddhism or so on. So many things that we give rise to. Right? It's cold out here and I'm shaking. Maybe you don't like the fact that I'm shaking. Maybe I don't like the fact my hand is shaking here. This phone is shaking because of how cold it is. But that's just a feeling. That's just the body. Maybe you don't like it. So where does that become something that you should say, well, I can't handle this, and I admit that this is my failing, but I shouldn't handle it. And that's really the crux of the question as it was asked. And I think I don't have a perfect, I don't have a well-based answer here, but a guideline in the sort of ballpark area, I would say, is where it leads to a change in your actions. So suppose this person has betrayed me and I hear them talking to other people, maybe just talking, or I just see them sitting there and it makes me want to do something, or at least scowl at them. And maybe when I talk to them, I know I'm going to say mean things or angry things. If it leads you to do unwholesomeness, I think definitely there's a line that's crossed there, and where you should say, that's where I should, in that case, I should just avoid the situation. I mean, that's where, when you're in an argument with someone, I think, well, many people say this, but I think in Buddhism it applies That if you're angry with someone, if you just get angry when you're in a conversation with someone, you should walk away. You should end the conversation, say, I'm sorry, I have to go, and take time to deal with the anger. Not then to go in your room and fume about how awful that person is, but to go into your room and consider how awful you are, right? How wrong states have arisen in you, how the anger has arisen in you, and deal with that. Not beating yourself up over it, but deal with it, right? Because you can't effectively deal with it if you're expressing, if you're committing unwholesome speech or acts. But I think for the most part, we should be willing to engage with our unwholesome mind states. So this person who's betrayed you, you're in their presence, and it freaks you out. It makes you scared, worried, anxious, or angry, sad. Any number of things. All of those things are interesting and useful and potentially productive in terms of helping us understand them and become stronger than them, so that they don't hurt us in the future. And so where we shouldn't avoid, I think, not all the time, but we should be open to where we're confident that it's just going to be a mental state. I'm just going to be miserable around this person, right? I'm not going to say anything, or I don't have to communicate with them, but I'm miserable and I'm unhappy, because that's interesting. That's something that we can learn about, that we can study, that we can overcome, and we can become free from. And you could, some people might even say it's a good thing to that's a good opportunity. I think there's room for that. I don't mean you should go out of your way to find things that make you upset, but so I wouldn't go that far. But certainly when as a natural part of your day, there's no other reason to not be there, that you're put in a situation where you have to be in proximity to such a person, or anything like that, any situation, the clicking, the person eating, their jaw is clicking, or the kids playing, or the loud noises, or even loud music. If you have no other reason not to be there, then that shouldn't usually be a reason. I mean, it's certainly an environment in which you can and should meditate. You can and should study your reactions, your likes and your dislikes. I mean, it would be the same if it was someone who you're attracted to. Should I avoid people who are beautiful, or who are sexually attractive, or physically attractive, right? Should I avoid going near delicious food because I might eat too much? Well, I mean, there's the point. If it's something that would cause you to do something, then I think there's an important point where you say, I'll just avoid that, because I know I'll do bad things or say bad things. Right? But if it's just going to make you really, really crave, or if it's just going to make you really, really upset, then those are things that generally you can deal with. Now, so if it's extreme, and if you feel like it's extreme, then by all means, if you want my advice, retreat, step back, absolutely, but you don't have to. And a big part of our practice is learning that we don't have to, that people talk about panic attacks, and anxiety is not something you have to run away from. A panic attack is just a name for panic that snowballs, and mindfulness unwinds that. It goes in the opposite direction. So you can apply it when you're panicking. And I think that's about all I have to say about that. That's the answer. So there's what you avoid on principle, there's what you avoid because it crosses a line where it's too much to deal with, and you're either going to do or say something bad, or you just feel like it's too much. And then there's what you can deal with. Just because it brings up unwholesomeness in your mind doesn't mean it's a bad situation, one that you can't meditate in, because unwholesomeness is, to some extent, something you can meditate on, learn about, and overcome and change, to the point that you're in the situation without the unwholesomeness arising. So there you go. there's the Dhamma for tonight. Again, I'm not answering questions in the comments. I see all your questions. And as I said in the beginning, this is not about chatting. You're supposed to be listening. You're supposed to be sitting there quietly listening to the Dhamma. So keep that in mind. Maybe you think, this monk doesn't know what he's talking about. That's fine, but I think the best answer there would be just to not come and listen. But if you think this monk or this teacher has something to listen to, best is to not talk too much. Peace, everyone. Have a good night. I don't know. I no promises that it's going to be every night or when it's going to be. I'd like to do a little earlier. I can do it in daylight outside, but also European people can have a chance to get involved. Although this is all on YouTube, this is going to be updated, so everyone will get to see it.